Finally, we are making this happen. Welcome to Humanscope podcast. And I know this has been 8 months of hard labor, coordination, manifestation to get all four of you together.
And this is the first time we four are doing it together, so it's exciting.
Very excited about Vineet being on camera. He's very camera shy. So I think 10 years of cajoling later, we are here. Not 8 months.
Chaitanya and proudly claims that is the son of two teachers or academicians, so he's like the scientist, right? Like when you think product, when you think detail, right? I've not seen somebody much more detail oriented than Chaitanya.
Rohit's strength is he brings balance.
Yeah.
to the overall equation. Like Chaitanya and I, and even Vineet can be reasonably stuck up in our ways. And we say this is the path, and Rohit is like, he brings good balance to the equation. Right?
You've built something meaningful for the community of HR, CHROs that could make work meaningful for a lot of employees. What would be your genuine input to some of them saying that, you know what, if you're buying tech, if you're buying a product, please take this into consideration while you're sort of doing that?
In HR systems specifically, if people don't adopt or use, it's as good as like an Excel sheet.
How did you guys read it differently, and how have you gone about the whole AI part of building the product, especially with all the agents and the super agents coming into play?
All four of us, we brought whatever we had to the table to build the story out. And like Chaitanya was saying, more than the idea, Darwinbox was an execution story.
Finally, we are making this happen. Welcome to Humanscope podcast. And I know this has been 8 months of hard labor, coordination, manifestation to get all four of you together on a podcast.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
And this is the first time we four are doing it together, so it's exciting.
Mine first time.
I'm most excited about that.
We are also very excited about Vineet being on camera. He's very camera shy. So I think 10 years of cajoling later, we are here. Not 8 months.
But whatever pre-discussions we've had, I think he was the most comfortable on screen that I was seeing. So I think
not on screen, it was one-on-one with you.
Lovely. I want to get into the story of Darwinbox right at the start, and what got you guys thinking about this idea, thinking about this journey, and are there some important moments that you recall saying that, what, these are the moments which decided that, we want to get onto this journey and build this. So any one of you who feels that, can add to that and then would love to.
So I've known Rohit and Chaitanya for a meaningful amount of time. Rohit and I have known each other for the last 15 years. So we were friends at B school and way before that. And Chaitanya and I were colleagues at Ernst & Young. I was in the investment banking practice and Chaitanya was in the consulting practice. And the first trigger for an idea in HR was, I was a banker. I was doing a lot of large M&A in the life sciences space across Asia. And you realize when you're a banker that one of the reasons why a deal is successful or a deal fails is actually the people angle. But pre-deal getting done, it is not talked about that much. You talk about finances, you talk about strategic fitment, you talk about synergies. You don't talk about the people angle when the deal is happening. But after, a lot of times a deal fails, it's also on account of the people angle not being in place. So that's the first trigger for a conversation between the three of us. And the three of us, we've talked about doing something together for some time. Okay. And so I went to them, we talked about, hey, HR seems like an important problem. And one, I was a banker, you used to work with large companies. they worked with large companies and their consulting avatars. And it became clear that people are the most important reason why a business fails or succeeds. That much is clear. And that the people function, consequently, the function that own the people agenda in an organization can be an important source of competitive advantage for the org. But we strongly felt that tech enabling that function was incredibly backward. And if great tech for the function doesn't exist, we'll build it ourselves. So I think Darwinbox started with an idea as small, as basic as that, and it became what it is now.
Yeah, lovely. So when he came to you guys with the idea, were you like, all thumbs up, like great, or you were like, okay, is this really a problem that we should get into and solve for?
See, the idea, I think, Jayant is always full of ideas, right? Like, so he came with multiple ideas, and we were chatting about these ideas. I think the thing that I was most excited about came from two places for this idea, right? One, I hated what I was using, right? I was like, my past life was in Google, where I saw much better systems like 7-8 years back, and while I was at McKinsey, the products that I saw could have been much better. And it was not for the lack of it. All my customers are also using terrible systems, right? So definitely that was one thing that I was like, why is there such bad systems for HR? And second part of it was, this is that one system everybody in the org uses. It felt very powerful as an idea, right? Because if you are in the hands of all the employees in an organization, you can really empower them and like change probably the course of that organization if you're able to do the right things. So that's where my excitement came from when we had that conversation. Obviously, Chaitanya was much more deeper in HR, so I'll probably leave it to him to think about how he thought about HR technology.
This is quite famous in Darwinbox. My early reaction when Jayant told me there seems to be a problem in HR tech that can be solved. So I was in HR consulting, been doing that for 4 years before he approached me. So my first reaction was I laughed out, very, very loudly for 5 minutes. So two reasons. First reason, I was not expecting idea of a building HR tech coming from a banker. So that was the last thing I was expecting. So I found it a little funny. So second is, in my experience, this system was completely occupied by very large guys. So we still recall one of the investors also said when we meet them and when we tell them, we want to disrupt enterprise technology space in HR. So you know who you're competing against. So they have balance sheets probably bigger than GDPs of some African companies. So that is also something I thought, okay, like this is not a practical idea. But after that, when I reflected, so I used to work with bankers like Jayant on diligence. So the best part is consultants make their money irrespective. Bankers, rarely make their money. So because few deals go through, but when they make, they make a lot of money.
They make the real money.
They make the real money. So diligence, as you know, it is generally you're running against the time. You need to complete it very, very fast, very templatized sort of exercise. So there, typically diligence happens on 3 systems of record. So in any organization, finance, sales, and HR diligence. Finance and sales diligence, people seem to have good data, clean data. It used to happen a little faster. But HR diligence always used to get delayed. So that is where I also thought there seems to be some issue there, because when I reflected, I was talking about large companies invested a lot in HR tech stack, etc. If they're also struggling, seems there is real opportunity there, because he is also coming from the same lens. That's where it became very exciting for me.
And what I think, there was belief. I think one, convincing the 3 of us, right? I think that was hard, right? Convincing each other. But what led to conviction and real belief was, the next thing that we did was we went and spoke to 150 CXOs across Asia.
Okay.
And we went and asked them, hey, this is what we want to do. We know that this is a category that has existed for the last 40 years. It's not a new category. And like Chaitanya said, it's dominated by all these large legacy players. But we want to do it differently, and we think the world deserves a new player.
Yeah.
And we talk to them about what their needs are, what they expect from HR systems, etc. And after that, I think belief became conviction that there is a real opportunity in the market. And I'll give you small examples, right? And Rohit talked about employee, that there are any number of systems in the enterprise.
Yeah.
Take a finance system, it touches the finance function. Take a CRM, it touches the sales function. The only system that touches everybody in the enterprise, the CEO and the last guy on the ground. The last guy, he could be at a storefront for a retailer. He could be on the shop floor for a manufacturing company. He could be doing delivery for a logistics company. But the only system that touches all of them is this digital town square called a HCM. Now, say for example, you're a 20,000 employee company. You straddle 10 countries. You're in 25 locations across the 10 countries. Is there a convention center and logistics that is possible to get all of them together in one place? There is none. The only place they can get together is a HCM. And we strongly felt that before we launched, products were built keeping an administrator in mind. But given the context I articulated, we strongly felt that a system should be built keeping that employee in mind.
Yeah.
And if he feels empowered, he feels connected to HQ, and if he feels an elevation experience, that is what all the CXOs that we met wanted. And I think that became the foundational tenet of how we wanted to build product and the story out.
Where would you say was the first milestone where, so as a journey of a founder, you start off, you feel that you'll pick up on some of the biggest brands and you'll sort of build and, you'll drive that. Then all market starts giving you inputs, community starts giving you feedback. Then you start also realizing that, the journey is not building something in 6 months, but it is way, way, way longer, bigger, right? So what was the time when you started to realize that, and sort of how did you take that forward?
So I think two parts to the conviction that Jayant said also, Pushkar, right? Like, so one part of the conviction was talking and getting conviction on the problem. The second part of conviction was, can we actually build this, right? See, we had great ideas.
Yeah.
We said, oh, we'll build for that end user, great experience, etc. We'll build a system which is much more configurable, evolves quicker, etc. But can we actually build such a thing? Does such a thing even be, right? Can it even be created? Was a problem statement, of course, right? And that's where the conviction on saying what we all spoke about and how we need to build it, etc. came. But we had to build that out to see the product in reality to get that conviction. And I think that was the first phase of the journey, which is, hey, there is a great idea, a clear problem, great idea. Does that translate to a product? And for the three of us, it was a lot more about, right, investing that money ourselves.
Yeah.
So that we get to that product first, right? So that we get conviction that this can be built, right? Once we got conviction that this can be built, right? That's probably for me, that was, and probably each of us has our own milestone in terms of the conviction. When we saw that product, when we took it in front of a few customers and they said, hey, you seem to be onto something, was where I think the first conviction point. Of course, then we had to sell it, and like there's a whole journey of going to a customer and they saying you're onto something but still giving us money. But I think the part to thinking this is the idea and seeing it in execution was, and it was a really good time, right? Like I mean, it's still my fondest cycle of
But if you
this
see,
journey.
2015 when we started,
Yeah.
the AI boom, tech boom, all these things were not there that time. So when we discussed that idea that the product should be usable enough. Currently, the problem which we had is SAPs and Oracles of the world were not that usable, user-friendly. Like people getting out from a Facebook app or a B2C apps and going back to that app, not usable at all. Huge difference. We want to match that as a use case. So finding that UX guy was a big challenge.
Can you be enterprise grade in terms of capability, depth, product wise, but consumer grade in terms of experience? Because this is one product that touches everybody, like you said.
Like if you make it more complex, the person on ground will not be able to use it. Like we have blue collars as well who use the software.
Yeah.
It should be more easy for them. One click actions, many things, right? Like that. So designing was very difficult start of the journey.
I 100% agree. Execution is everything. Right?
Absolutely.
There are so many ideas. The odds could be against you. Like People Matters journey, we started a magazine when most number of magazines and media companies closed down in the world uh, during the financial crisis. And like everyone would have said, stupid idea to start a magazine when everyone is closing down, right? And then odds are against you, and then you sort of go and fight, right? How did you guys decide on who's going to play what role? Because that's also, an important piece. And I know when you're starting up, everyone plays everything. But did you guys decide that, hey, this is the area that I will pick up? And what was the equation like?
Everyone was doing everything.
Yeah.
That's what is done. So, to your previous question as well, if you see, that time was difficult. Now, if you have an idea, you can create a POC via AI in like an hour. Those times are very different, but now it's very different. Now they don't need to find a tech guy to solve their problem. You're getting a point, right? They can write it to AI prompt and get that journey right.
What's the advantage of having 4 co-founders versus maybe two co-founders or a solopreneur? Have you guys,
More
sort of
shoulders to
discovered?
cry on.
It's very hard to be one person's journey. So the more the better.
Yeah.
Typically, luckily, we also brought in complementary skills and personalities to the table. That really helped us in the journey.
So I was saying, like, I think more than, see, if you look at it from outside, right, like the three of us probably have similar backgrounds, right? Like all of us went on to do engineering. Vineet was very, very clear on what he was going to do, right? But I think the three of us come from very similar backgrounds. But there is a very high complementarity in the personalities, right? Like there is an optimist there. There is the detail-oriented person there. There's a good mix of.
For our viewers, can you start now making it little exciting and naming as well?
No, I'm happy to
Who's
do
the
that.
most optimist?
No,
Jayant is the
right.
most
I mean,
optimist.
if we could pick up phone and call both of us and say, let's start an HRMS in 2015, right? Like, you don't need to know who the optimist is. You don't need this thing. I think that's the optimist, of course, right? Chaitanya and proudly claims that like is the son of two teachers or academicians. So he's like the scientist, right? Like when you think product, when you think detail, right? I've not seen somebody much more detail oriented than Chaitanya, right? I straddle somewhere between this both places whenever I'm the flavor of the season in terms of being an optimist versus being a detail
Who's the
oriented.
more realist?
I probably will be the one. which
Yeah,
is closer
he's
to
right.
the-
I think Rohit's strength is he brings balance
Yeah.
to the overall equation. I think maybe a bunch of us, like Chaitanya and I, and even Vineet, can be reasonably stuck up in our ways. And we say, this is the path, and Rohit is like, he brings good balance to the equation. Right?
When you don't have a deep skill set, you have to manage some of these things.
He's also, I feel, most logical
Yeah,
among
he's the
us.
most logical.
So generally, any critical decision, we trust his judgment because he can take a very, very objective and logical view.
You need these different personalities to sort of match and create that journey, because you would need these skills in different phases. You would need different skills, right?
Absolutely.
And strengths basically on sort of advancing on that.
In fact, I'll go to the extent of saying I have massive regard for solopreneurs who just build companies into the giants that they did. I think it's just amazing, right? What they
We
do.
can't visualize how they've done
I
that.
think, but for any of them or all of us, I don't think Darwinbox would have happened. I think all 4 of us, we brought whatever we had to the table to build the story out. And like Chaitanya was saying, more than the idea, Darwinbox was an execution story.
I'll give you an example from my earlier times when I started knowing about the Darwinbox piece, and I've seen the whole journey, so that I've been fortunate to see that. Is the initial years when you used to actually go and sit with customers and sort of work with them, like be it the delivery story of Sahil saying that, or some of the other folks saying that, and I've interacted with many of them in my individual capacity to know some of that as well. And see, the best part, this is something that Rudy Carson actually told me, the guy who built Connexa and sold to IBM. That time it was one of the biggest deals, right? He's saying, in my initial years, I used to go to customers and say that on day one, I give you guarantee that at some place my product will stop supporting, or it will not work the way I would have sold you or envisioned with you. But my guarantee is that I'll be sitting next to you to make it work. That is the guarantee I can give you on day one. I can't give you the guarantee that it will work 100% of the time. And I felt that was just a very mature way of putting that out, saying that, you know what, we know the pitfalls. Why not say that to customers who are putting trust right at the start, and that's where the belief and the trust in the ecosystem sort of gets built.
Absolutely. Very nicely said.
That is also hardest part when you scale.
Yeah.
So keeping in touch with what is happening on the ground, that becomes very hard.
Yeah.
So those channels which really helped you in the early stage,
Yeah.
many of them are you directly going and sitting and building.
Yeah.
So they become very, very hard to scale as well. At least what we are very proud of is even now all of us to a great extent, so we involve with customers and try to solve any issues that they are facing, etc. So that is what really helping us.
That's why 4 founders. Many clients we can cover now.
Divide and conquer.
Literally, I mean, there is a founder mapping for company.
Talk about it. What do you mean by founder map?
So above certain size, etc. Obviously, it's not practical to do everything, but we are accessible.
Yeah.
So I'll go to that extent if anyone writes to us. So I don't think we ever not responded to any customer, because we all feel there is nothing more important than solving a customer problem.
Yeah.
So when you're running a business, so typically we closely track customers, what is happening, what are the issues that they're facing, what is the NPS, etc. For clients of certain size and above, there is a one-on-one mapping. So we are personally, one of us is accountable to ensure that account is, happy and successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I think it goes down to the two things that we value the most, right? I think in company building, it's customers and colleagues, and very early, right? And this is, we decided we'll go after a certain category of companies. And 2016, when the product went live mid 2016. It was not easy to take us. This is a very mature category of software. Everybody else built the full stack out.
Yeah.
When we launched, we had 3 modules, not the entire stack. What we had was vision, right? We had, here is where we are, we will get here. A few people believed. And I know that they took us despite odds internally, putting personal reputation on the line. And it's been like that several times over the course of the journey. And who are you if you can't do right by them?
Yeah.
And if there are times where we feel we can't deliver to what they want, you should go and say, boss, we can't. See, we are not for everyone, right? You can't be a product that's built for everyone.
Correct.
Right? So you have to be open
You're
about
building for no one.
Absolutely. You should be something for someone.
And I think throughout Pushkar and even to date, I think the intent to solve has never come down even by a inch, maybe, right? Like, so there might be a limitation to solve, right? For whatever reason, but the intent to solve is always there. And that's what I enjoy among 4 of us, right? We can discuss a new country launch in the 6th minute for 5 minutes, and then the 6th minute discuss one bug on the system, right? Very seamlessly between both. So I think it's all with the intent to solve. It's never with saying, oh, this is pain or this is pleasure or whatever, right? It's just intent to keep on continuously solving for it. Just coming back to that one point you said on 4 founders, right? I think all of us, as general people, go through our cycles of energies.
Yeah.
It's very helpful for when one person is down, other person bringing them up or stepping in for this thing also is extremely helpful. And this is a long journey, right? And it's slightly painful also as a journey, right? There are more lows than highs in this journey. So you have a huge advantage when you have co-founders that you trust, that they can bring you up or they can step in and help out.
I think Vineet beautifully put it in one line: more shoulders to cry and support.
In the journey, we saw, and there's a joke between us. We say founders get a raw deal always. So when you get a raw deal, right, you need someone to bring you up.
Yeah.
And that's what we say. If founders are motivated 500%, then the employees are motivated 100%, and then the below level goes more niche, right? So that motivation should work. So someone should be always on high. Mostly Jayant is on high.
See, it's also like if you look at building a journey not as a T20, but really a test match or a series, like a World Test Championship series. India is not doing that great, but on the points table, but it's really looking at that, and then there are going to be phases where, you know, a bowler is going to come and take the wickets, a player is going to sort of pep up everyone, a player is going to sort of come and play that match-winning innings that lifts up everyone and all of that. So I think it just increases the odds of maybe making that happen.
But the example, no, which is there's a change in pace.
Yeah.
So the pace from a test match to a one day, the pace increases.
Yes.
The pace from a one day to a T20 increases.
Yeah.
So at least a startup journey, that much is clear that it is a marathon where you're sprinting.
Yeah.
So it's not a test match where the pace is
Yeah.
off, right? It's a marathon where you're constantly sprinting.
But is it sustainable, the sprinting, you know?
If you have the right people by your side, both beside you and with you, I think, you can.
And most important thing is you should be enjoying that.
Exactly.
So that is the most important thing. It's possible if you're enjoying.
I think you guys also mentioned about having very large companies in this segment already doing work, serving large customers, and then trying to sort of build in that similar segment. Takes me back to the conversation. So to a couple of companies which have really gone big from India in the HR space. Well, Mr. Bigchandani built the whole Naukri.com piece, and there's a famous input that he had is when he was building Naukri, he did not fully know that the scale at which Monster was operating in the world or what else was happening in the job board space around the world. And he said, I never thought about it. I just went on building it. So that's how it happened, right? In your case, I think it was the sheer customer obsession that, we really want to be besides them and try to solve for that. Maybe that's the streak that I'm sort of seeing and sort of, picking up from here on, that customer obsession, fanaticism, if I was to call about it, to drive that journey forward.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. And a lot of people would ask me that, over the years you guys have done well in multiple places. What do you think, Pushkar, Darwinbox does great? And my response is they're just fanatics about making their customers successful. Their founders are extremely fanatic about, going and sitting with
We
the
take that as a very big compliment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But I'll say two things. I think the twin values that we do right by a customer, do right by a colleague, you'll build a good story. I think it's fanaticism on both.
That's the answer to your question as well, which you asked, what should new founders do?
Fanatic about customers and employees.
Absolutely.
Colleagues.
You also saw some decent amount of money then coming in as part of your initial raisings as well. What did that money do? Did it give you wings? It gave you new energy? What did the initial sort of the fundings meant for you all?
So I think money meant different things at different stages. Initial, definitely Pushkar, was credibility. Because a lot of the initial conversations were about what if you didn't last as a company, right? Hey, you have a great product, but what if you shut down tomorrow, right? And it was a very real conversation that our competitions were throwing against us, saying, what if they shut down tomorrow? So I think getting the right set of investors early on, right? Whether it is Mohandas Pai coming in because he was the CFO, CHR of a large enterprise like Infosys, right, who understood the space and came in, or getting a global investor like Lightspeed early on. So in all those forms, it was giving credibility to the story, where everything else is checked off as a product and as a solution for that customer. They also believed, hey, these guys will last because such credible investors have backed them. There's something here. So I think that was what it was initially. Over time, it was about where we wanted to expand, where we wanted to invest. So today, for example, the fundraise a lot time is about how much more we want to invest in R&D, right? Or how much we want to invest in an expansion in a country like US, right? Like so it becomes mostly that. Early days was a lot more about slight bit of validation, right? Credibility building, etc.
I also felt that you made smart use of money as well in the initial. I've never seen you guys spend for no reason. Like you would always invest in the right areas. I have an instance from
We bargain very hard.
2017, Jayant was in People Matters office visiting us, and he was sort of sharing the Darwinbox journey, and this is what we are trying to do, and we're trying to crack a tech HR deal, and he was like almost like at 1/3 of the price that what we would sell, right? So I was like, no, but you know what, we'll build this ecosystem together, and the storyteller Jayant in his office, he knew what he was trying to sort of do. And there's one thing that I regret as well. In that whole conversation, he had told me that, would you be interested in taking some equity instead of giving all the support and marketing? I wish I would have picked up on that. It could have meant very different from that. But, I think those were the conversations. But you were totally involved, to make a partnership happen. So while you talk about customers and colleagues, also the partner ecosystem as well, if I was to add it, because it was always looked at from that spirit, is what came to us.
Yep.
No, absolutely.
And also this the funding, a lot of people keep asking. One thing is, at least we feel it should be well capitalized. It gives you good, freedom of mind.
Freedom to operate.
So freedom to operate. Most important, you should be very responsible with money, and we would say you should be very frugal to the extent possible, but not when it comes to hiring talent. For example, talent, comes at a cost. So for us, one of the important thing is we don't want to lose someone, who can really add that value to the org, because we can't afford him, so or her. So that is one of the very important things as well. I mean, obviously, naturally, for building the brand, expanding the markets, it needs capital.
And I think it was clear from the beginning, for the story we wanted to build, for the ambition that we had across geographies, it needed capital. That much was clear. And what helped, I think we've had the fortune of working with some really nice investors along the way. And if you're executing well, so you're in a good market, there's decent traction, the numbers reflect that traction, you become attractive to investors. But beyond that, we've also been intentional about choosing investors, in the sense that you realize, like you said, customers, colleagues, but beyond that, the choice of somebody, the choice of a co-founder, or the choice of a leadership colleague that you hire, the intensity of engagement is so high, you should like the person. It becomes, I think, very, very tough to operate. It's no different with an investor. I think we've always chosen investors that we were very comfortable with. You know that you have to journey the next 5, 6, 7 years with them. And them being a force multiplier was very, very important. So I think one was just being intentional, and we had the good fortune of having access to them, and we could say, hey, we feel very comfortable with these guys. The second is, for us, a lot of times investors were also not just about capital. I think that was always one lens with which we viewed the world. They should help in some way. They should be value additive in some way. It was always, I think, one extra angle that we always looked at. And it could be, in the beginning, we had Mr. Pai, like, great expertise in the Indian corporate, Asian corporate ecosystem and the HR ecosystem. Then we had Lightspeed and Sequoia. They've backed so many companies and they know what building enterprise software means. Then we had strategic investors who, these were role models. They've done that journey a few times before us. And hey, if you're going to go through the same journey next 10 years, you know exactly who to call with it. And by virtue of partnering, your brand amplifies. And there were investors who could help in geographies. I think which is I think one lens that we always done a reasonable job at, that we're getting capital on board. We'll always ask a question: how can an investor help and add value?
Now, you mentioned, Chaitanya, about the whole AI piece, because you're saying that, you guys were watching it carefully, you were trying to read it. How did you guys read it differently, and how have you gone about the whole AI part of building the product, especially with all the agents and the super agents coming into play?
So if I take a step back, Pushkar, you take any foundational shifts like AI, what is important for a firm is, so going back to the fundamentals and restarting the whole thing again. So that is what agility is, right? And doing it very fast. I think that is the reason why companies like us, we survive and we fight against giants, because they take some time. So it's hard to restart that whole thing and then move fast. So I think that is what we were able to do. So when AI thing happened, one thing we've been quite excited. We know this is a foundational sort of a shift, and it is going to stay. But at the same time, like we said, the platform thinking, that came into our mind. So one thing is, quickly building something just, as a wrapper to a language model and offering a product
Without
that is
the right
without right governance, and then put all the client data onto a public sort of endpoints, etc. So that's not the way to build. So we are in enterprise software space, and clients' data is utmost important, and way to protect it at any cost. So that is where we started building a grounds up. First thing what we built is, we built a good LLM gateway. So if you want to build any GenAI applications, we can build on our self-hosted models. I'm not saying, we built our own models. I'm saying, these are self-hosted models. So sitting in our perimeter, and the data is not going out, nor used for any sort of training. So, and they're all guardrails. And we can also have complete monitoring for clients to realize what is the usage and what responses system gave, etc. And then we've also built a good orchestration platform. So super agent, as you see, it is an offering, but at the heart of it, we have built our own agentic orchestration platform. What we are quite excited about is, now that you asked about AI and agents, etc. See, what you are as a business, as an organization, it's not going to change. So end of the day, Darwinbox is a technology company, People Matters is a media company, or someone else is a manufacturing company or a retail company. But what changes is how work is getting done. That is what changes. And if there is a system where how work getting done is captured, that is actually HR system. And it is also a system with the highest amount of context about people and work. So if you think of a larger governance from access controls perspective, etc., or capturing, for example, job descriptions is where what work is getting done is captured. So that is where we're quite excited. We thought, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity to really take a HR system to become a org-wide AI system or AI platform. So what it means, you can become that layer that governs and manages how work is getting transformed. So there is an activity that is tagged to a role in the job description. Now you can define whether that activity is either completely replaced by AI or augmented by AI, or whether there is no impact. Then if it is replaced or augmented by AI, then how is it getting done? So that means, okay, you need to build some AI applications. It could be agents, or it could be a RAG platform, or it could be a Gen AI application, etc. That is when, we build complete, platform capability. You can build your own agents. You can build your own Gen AI applications. You can build your own RAG platforms. So all these things can come together and can get basically orchestrated from Darwinbox itself. So you are becoming, along with the system of records for employees, you're also becoming system of record for AI as well. So if you think of what we feel is, and we're going to a stage where companies will have a horizontal sort of orchestration platform, where all the systems will get plugged to that orchestration platform, and the people will start interacting with agentic sort of experience or a platform from UI experience or a platform. So we feel HR system has a natural right to be that platform, because in such a scenario, access controls becomes very, very critical.
Yeah.
So context becomes very important, and you are sitting with the most important sort of a context. So that is where we made a lot of investment, and working with a lot of our customers, and many people are quite excited. So to take it to beyond HR use cases as well, there has been a very good progress.
We're taking the more painful route on this also, because we're not being lazy about acquiring a company and hoping it will work for us for AI, right? Like most of our legacy competition, right? We are just saying
With the 2 years roadmap
from
for
grounds
integration.
up, from first principles, thinking about security, compliance, thinking about how it integrates with our product, will give the answer. So I think that's the difference in the approach we are taking towards this.
We don't have 2 years integration roadmap. So we are okay. So because we are not acquiring, and then having, we are not saying general availability Q3 FY28. Okay, so we are building, and we are, like you said, we are building with the customers. And if we build something, so the biggest problem today is, so people are so interested in selling the licenses, but if you go and ask, people, clients are so pained. I'm not seeing any adoption or ROI from AI investment. And on the top of it, these guys are coming and saying, now you need to pay me innovation fee, you need to pay me some AI credit fee. And their question is like, what innovation I benefited from? Okay, what AI credits I am consuming, etc. And so rather we are saying, okay, you know what? So we will take a POC, work with us, and see the value, then only buy anything.
Yeah.
And we, like, for example, last two quarters, we won 40 billion tokens.
Last 1 quarter.
1 quarter.
We are doing POC only with 16
Customers.
clients.
40 billion tokens we just we gave for free of cost for our customers. And by the way, I'm not saying this is the biggest sacrifice or whatsoever. We are also benefiting. We are working with them, we are learning, and we are maturing. So that is the investment on that, and we're very grateful for clients partnering with us and working with.
I'm liking the fact that you guys are thinking about this from a core product standpoint and what the customers need, and not looking at it as a feature on one segment to solve, where a lot of brands and products in different segments are trying to do. They're trying to look at it from a feature standpoint or one aspect of it. They're not thinking about it in totality, is where some of those gaps or answers would lie.
I think it'll come down to, there's a certain set of capabilities that we've built as a platform, as a company. And some of those capabilities are in HR, but a lot of these capabilities are also general in nature. Now, how can you use these capabilities to give the highest ROI from an AI investment for a customer? If that means it is HR plus plus, way beyond HR, so be it. But importantly, it is the capability that we built, which is also generic in nature and extends beyond HR.
Like we discussed about Studio and all, right? We created APIs for integrating beautifully and easily for every system across on enterprise grade.
Yeah.
That those same APIs were built in a manner that we could make it MCP, right? We were the first in SaaS HR, plus we were the few top 100 we would be there who made all their APIs MCP compliant. First, like we have started this journey from start where ChatGPTs of the world were not there. ChatGPT was there, but it was not B2C product, right? When it was not given in our hands to use it, to feel the power. But now, AI is going on from 2016 in a hyper way, right? Everyone said nothing will happen, nothing will happen. But when it came to B2C, when people got in their hands, they felt the power, and now they are saying it's real.
Yeah.
We were doing it before that. Like when the ChatGPT launched, right? You asked, right? Where does this money go? Funding money. Where do we invest? We invest in R&D, like we said. So we invest a lot of money in creating our own models. Then we felt that this drastic change of the changes which are happening in AI industry not sustainable, and there are people who are great at that. Let's consume those and create an offering which clients will understand. Now currently there is a full ChatGPT layer, but clients don't know how to use it, utilize it for their benefit. Like there are 3 use cases which I see: laziness, efficiency, and accuracy.
Okay.
Everyone is focusing on laziness. Write me this, write me that, consume me this, consume me that. Right? Generate goes, so all these things. There are yeah. There are things which can improve accuracy. There are things which can improve efficiency. Like efficiency and accuracy can be directly proportional to each other. If you increase the accuracy via 1%, not required. 3%, multiple checks are not required. AI can do the first check, then human loop can do a second check. Then the first check is not required, and efficiency automatically comes. So there are n thousand things. We are looking at a different lens, not laziness lens. Laziness, so we have accomplished, I think. Everyone knows how to get their work done easily without using brain.
It's a table stake now. Just a generation and summarization use cases, building a wrapper around a foundational model. So, which he's saying solving for laziness. So it is a table stake now. But how do you solve for org efficiency?
There's the real money. There's the real value which you give to company.
What's the vision that you guys have then? Where do you want to take it?
So one thing is, in the hindsight, one thing that really paid off is, Vineet briefly mentioned, one of big investments that we made ahead of the time, and multiple times we debated a lot, is investment in the studio, iPass, because at least for the time being, we were very clear we are going to go deep in HR domain only, which we are passionate about. What it means is, in any company, we'll be invariably sitting either in a SAP or Oracle or some other ecosystem. So our ability to integrate with these systems very seamlessly, because that is, by the way, I mean, whenever we try selling, that is what they used to use. Probably they're still using. See, what these guys can't. The end of the day, integration is about shaking hands. Okay, so so you need to extend your hand as much as possible. Then if the other guy is not extending, that is his problem. So that is where we figured out, okay, let us invest in a good integration platform. And we don't want to rely on any third-party integration platform, because at scale it becomes again very expensive for our customers and also rigid for our customers. So that's why we invested. We built a good integration platform. In fact, okay, we could have actually started offering that as a third-party integration platform, but we're very clear.
Because Rohit is friends with Workato founders, so we are not getting into that business. We are not getting into that business, but we can.
Then we can actually build any connectors. So any data transformation we can do, and we have a lot of out-of-box connectors. Now in AI world, if you think of it, in a cross system or a broad agent sort of a scenario, these connectors only become tools that actually get plugged into agent. To be honest, okay, there is no rocket science there. So if there is a third-party API you're already integrating with, then you build a wrapper around and create a MCP compatible sort of a tool, and then you plug to the agent. So our studio investment and ability to build connectors and sitting with so many connectors, that really started paying off. So where we want to take it is, like I said, want to work with our customers and want to at least put our ambition in front of them that we want to take your HR system to be the enterprise AI system, and you can give employees a platform to access and solve for cross-system sort of use cases. For example, today in Darwinbox, So, two things. Any sales guys earlier, say today I have a meeting with some bank, or I need some information, or I want to respond to RFP. If you think of it in 10 years journey, so we created so much enterprise knowledge, right? And it is generally scattered and sitting around. Now we used our own RAG agent and put all the data, all the enterprise knowledge there. Today they can simply ask, I'm going to a meeting with so and so bank, how can I pitch Darwinbox in BFSI sector? So everything comes very, very neatly. Would love to demonstrate that. So you can actually feed in RFP, previous responses, whatever knowledge is there, 95% it comes automatically. Because first of all, you need to taste your own food, right? I mean, then only you can offer to the others. So that is what we are doing. And the second is we plugged in our productivity software like Jira, Confluence we use for documentation, product, and then HubSpot we use for CRM, NetSuite we use for ERP, etc. So if Rohit wants, who are the top 5 sales reps this year, and what is their level of engagement? Or Jayant wants to know, so what is the projected revenue for next quarter, and who is lacking? So we don't need to go through 3 systems and then plug data, assemble data together, do some data crunching. Because AI is smart enough. There are right tools. It can invoke in the right order and do that, and then it will give you the answer. So that is the ambition.
Supporting client with that.
And one more thing is, we are also equally excited about how we can become very efficient as an organization. So, for example, for SaaS companies, scaling support is a very big problem. So at scale, so you can't keep organically growing in people headcount, right? I mean, even if you want to invest in people, so making or creating so many SMEs is very hard. So you can't codify your knowledge into people, but what is better is you can actually codify your knowledge into a AI sort of a platform. So that is where we used again same platform, so to automate our support as well, and it solves beyond just L1 use case. Even if it's problem solving, so it can actually impersonate a SME and give you the responses in different languages.
And to summarize, right, the ambition which we started in 2015, that continues to be unwavering, which is we believe we've built the best product in the HR space, and we want to build the largest HR tech franchise globally. That we are unwavering about, we continue to. But now, with the current wave that we see, we feel strongly about the fact that we can extend beyond HR to become a system for work, where work happens. Right? So I think that is the next decade of push for us.
So if you built something meaningful for the community of HR, CHROs that could make work meaningful for a lot of employees, like millions of employees. Those are the lives you could impact, right, through your work. Many of those CHROs and business leaders are taking decisions on buying some of these products and all. What would be your genuine input to some of them, saying that, if you're buying tech, if you're buying a product, please take this into consideration while you're sort of doing that? Anyone?
No, I think the most important thing, Pushkar, is getting a partner or getting a technology partner who is more adaptable, because things will keep changing, right? COVID came and went, right? Work from home, work from office came and went and is mixed and it's hybrid and all of that. AI is coming and, right, staying maybe, right? But I'm just saying those macros you can't control. Right, you just need a partner who is more adaptable, this thing, and you can test it in many ways, right? You can test it in terms of the feature set, you can test it in terms of the people, you can test it in terms of how many different sectors they serve, etc. So that would be my number one thing, right? The number two thing again is HR specifically, right? And first could be the product answer for any technology that you buy, but the second is HR thing is the product is as powerful as how many people use it, right? As simple as that, right? Because again, in HR systems specifically, if people don't adopt or use, it's as good as like an Excel sheet, right? Which somebody has to go fill up, etc. Right? So I think that again is a extremely high consideration that you need to put for HR systems specifically in the decision making process when you think about buying, which is adoption. Right?
And in fact, I'll start with it could be any system. The buyer being very clear about what they want.
Yeah.
I think the starting point is that I think it's easy to get distracted by what's happening in market. Hey, there's this new shiny object here. There's this cool thing that somebody else is doing.
Yes.
But I think the starting point is always being clear about what I want from this exercise. That is one. The second, like Rohit said, the partner is important, and getting to know your partner well. And especially there are categories of software where maybe things are optional, right? Hey, I can try something on next year or next quarter, I can turn it off. There are software categories like that. But our category of software is you're in it. Right?
It's for a marriage.
Yes, it's a marriage.
It's
It's
a
a
dating year.
Absolutely. It's a marriage. You can date initially,
Yeah.
but you know that this is going to be a 3-year, 5-year, or a 8-year journey together. Then you should like the partner that you're going to partner with. And it's not about what the partner was in the past. Oh, he's been around for so long. He has
Yeah.
hundreds of customers or thousands of customers. It's about, hey, who's the partner that I'm comfortable with and comfortable journeying the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years.
Yeah.
What is also for the best days are ahead of you, not the best days being behind. That's I think super important.
All our wishes for this story to grow multifold, and as People Matters, we've seen this journey. We're extremely proud of what you guys are doing, especially building from Asia to the world. It's always exciting, and a lot of wishes for being on that journey and keep solving. I think the community needs more and more of that innovation and R&D.
Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, I'll go by saying that I feel very good about you're born somewhere and you continue going.
Yeah.
There's an incredible opportunity to adopt the best of what you have in each of these places. And there's this global fusion company that we can create
Yeah.
that I think I'm personally very excited about. I know these guys are as well. And I can speak for the other three when I say this, that I think looking back, and I think 10 years is, we celebrated our 10th anniversary last week.
Yeah.
I think times like this are also a chance to reflect.
Yes.
It's been a great journey, but I can also say that we're a lot more excited about the next 10 than the last 10.
Yeah.
So this is day one of our next decade.
Absolutely.
It's always a day one for.
This is the day one of our next decade.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So wishing you all the luck
Thank
for
you.
the next decade of innovation and global scaling.
Thank you.
Make more evolutions happen.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, lovely.